Welcome to the Listening Machine podcast. Hey Subbu, how are you?
Good, good. How are you?
Doing great. So what's up with the World Cup?
No, I just want to touch base this. There could be some of the audience are coming from not just completely from India. So we are just starting with this cricket news. I'm not sure how many of them understand the
And
context actually.
we are from this region, so we have all the liberty to talk. So when we listen to US podcast, we don't know anything about baseball, right? But
So
I'm
I,
not being arrogant. That's a sport we follow. So
yeah, no,
and this is a big event. So
so I watched the West Indies Zimbabwe match actually,
hmm.
and no,
Oh
I
wow,
just
that was like brutal.
no,
I feel really bad for Zimbabwe, but I think they have done so far well. Getting into Super 8 itself is a big success.
I haven't followed West Indies cricket closely for a while, so I wanted to see who are the new kind of set of players who have come in and stuff like that. I think they, in my view, I think Darren Sammy had put a very
Yeah, yeah.
balanced side actually. I have not
Yeah, I
seen.
still am not sure about their bowling attack, which is maybe apart from two spinners, it's pretty weak. But I think their batting power is amazing. The kind of hitting they're doing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and many of them play IPL also. So
Maybe I don't know whether the Darren thinking is that like we are going to India, so we'll just strengthen the spinning department, and
yeah,
then
yes.
possibly I don't know, but what I don't read news about West Indian cricket that much these days,
Mhm.
or rather cricket about these days.
Yeah, so far good, but we have to see how they play against us. That will
Yeah,
be the big test, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
against South Africa, which is probably the two big matches coming for them. Yeah, but interesting to see.
But especially what I have seen, how badly we play against badly we played against South Africa. I feel
Exactly.
we might have a difficult time with West Indies as well.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
I feel they have not faced any tough teams so far yet,
Okay.
right? So
Okay. All
yeah,
right.
it'll be interesting. The next two matches for them will be sort of a good test.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So coming to the AI news, I just want to touch base before we get into the actual topic you want to talk about is about open source LLMs, and you want to talk about the top three ones. So there was this interesting couple of announcements or launches from Anthropic, one on the cybersecurity space and one on COBOL, the programming language. It just created a lot of sort of disturbance in the stock market of some of the leading companies in the cybersecurity space. And also, yesterday IBM lost quite a bit of money on that. So, I was quite surprised with how the market is reacting to these things. Right? Are they really worried about some AI, new AI, LLM vendor can wipe out cybersecurity companies who have an amazing track record? What's your view on it?
No, I've been seeing this software selling off for like last about 2 weeks or 3 weeks, wherein in India we saw several services vendors were struggling initially about like early Feb or like late Jan, and then the same thing happened in Europe where there are a lot of the SaaS companies which are from European region were like getting left right crashed like on the European markets. And we also see
Right.
this kind of sell off on US as well in late January or early February. More or less, I think all the trends, if you look at it, where everybody is just kind of, at least the people who are on the financial domain, who are like looking at like quarter after quarter profits, that audience is just basically looking at a lot of restructuring going to happen much faster is what I feel. But I mean, in reality, it may not happen that fast. But
Yeah.
then, yeah, it's kind of a knee-jerk reaction where like a lot of expectations seem to be like LLM vendors are going to eat into a lot of traditional software businesses, be it services or the verticals like law, finance, and like all this enterprise
Right,
value.
that I understand, but something like cybersecurity, for example, the applications is wide ranging, right? It's not like a developer tool only, right?
Uh-huh.
You need at edge level, at different network level, there are gears who have these softwares embedded, taking all this. So I thought it was some sort of a knee-jerk reaction. I mean, especially on cybersecurity where the LLM vendor will just completely going to come and replace them tomorrow. I don't think it's going to happen.
It's not going to happen tomorrow
Because
for
big
sure.
enterprises don't, I mean, take some knee-jerk reaction like that when they really trust on one vendor and one software for decades. They're not going to suddenly replace it, right? So,
That's true, but one thing what I have noticed is that like we being so long in the industry, we always look at the most complex vendors and most complex solution providers. But I think these are like there are a lot of even smaller players who could be easily replaced and stuff like that. I
yeah.
think LLM vendors are like more or less going to replace those guys first, but then once they are vacating the shops, then the bigger attack is going to be on the larger
Hmm.
big players. So I think that is a kind of reaction what people are looking at is what I feel. Like you said, no, huge complex security solutions are not going to go away overnight. But then there are a lot of smaller vendors who are sitting around doing ancillary work, and then which is like a lot more into in terms of understanding the user, what problems they are coming out with, and those kind of issues which are like facing consumer, the
Hmm.
security companies are just facing consumer. All that can be some it can be mostly consumed by LLMs is what I feel actually.
Yeah, but I liked the COBOL announcement what they made. I don't think they really have a very strong offering. They are probably saying it can understand a COBOL code and it can tell you. I mean, it can basically correlate everything and tell you, okay, if we need to replace this, how much it's going to cost. Something like that is what I read about. I haven't tried it, but I think we saw again a knee-jerk reaction, especially on IBM stock, which we all know run some of the very old banking systems and even many ATMs in many countries.
That's true.
So, so that was always a thing where I mean, heard from many top level CXO level people where they always want to replace such legacy systems, right? Whether it is COBOL or Delphi or VB6 kind of systems. So I think that is probably a good step in the direction because you don't really want any new players picking COBOL skills. It's nobody's going to use it, and they just who is supporting it probably is just simply milking whatever is left out there.
Yeah, that's true. And,
So
and
those are
then
the good use cases. Definitely, they need to be modernized. I don't think we need to still rely on COBOL systems in 2026.
I don't know whether we need to rely on this or not, but I think there are a lot of like very critical financial applications which run on COBOL actually,
Yeah, yeah.
and mostly a lot of them survive because most of those users don't understand the logic, the business logic, which basically how it is built around that, and they're just kind of getting
Mhm.
serving a purpose. So let us not touch it because we cannot reverse engineer this kind of stuff.
Correct. Yeah.
But I think that is the space where LLM can just it doesn't have that human fatigue of like no, I have done some reverse engineering of a code and then ported it to a newer language and stuff. Like, I know how like painful process that is, like especially when you are like looking at languages which are like legacy, where you have the logic compiled in multiple places. Just documenting
That's
those
true.
that workflows are like back into a spec, and then where it can be ported to a newer language is like extremely painful process.
But what I like with Cloud is their focus on programming languages, right? Has been, I mean, pretty intense comparing the other models. These guys are really going behind on many of those things, actually. So,
See, I somehow feel that it's still a mind space game they're playing, because the star coder is something which is a model which has like been optimizing COBOL Fortran for several years, and then Gwen code, which is from a Chinese LLM vendor, which is also performs very well for programming and stuff like that. So it is just that a lot of media which basically highlights the Western
that's
models
true.
is what I feel. So, but
Yeah,
then
and maybe I think they are now. What I feel is after the Super Bowl ad campaign and all that, they're burning a lot of marketing dollars, is what I understand.
that is possible, and then as well, we have like the Indian ecosystem has like kind of a more love towards the models or the vendors who are on the west. So we are like getting those kind of amplification happening here.
Right.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah, I think that I agree. I think some of the developer ecosystem is Like they're in so love with Cloud Desktop and all that.
Yeah, yeah.
So anyway, so I think the main topic what we want to talk about today is the open source LLM space, which unfortunately is not getting the kind of attention what it should be getting. I don't know. It's probably because many of the popular ones or the really good ones are from China. That may be a reason, which I strongly believe. And also, I think not many. I think the whole thing of, I mean, you standing up a GPU and running all this in your infrastructure, that audience base is pretty small, right? So with that, the three models you want to talk about today is Quen, which is from Alibaba, and GLM, and the third one is Deepseek, right?
Yeah.
So why don't we start with what these models are and what's their unique innovation or the capability before we get into the next set of things.
I mean, these are very broader topics, but then we are just going to touch upon something like introductory or like kind of getting a window into what these are, because it's
So
just like,
essentially, what I want to talk about, it's not that people don't know, but why someone wants to run any of this open source LLM model in their own infrastructure, right, or on cloud or whatever. What is the one single, or maybe you can talk about more than one, the key requirement for that or use case? Apart from, let's say, hey, I don't want to give my data to a commercial LLM, that definitely is one which is no brainer. Beyond that,
Uh, so, so when we look, like when it comes to AI, I basically look at that into two spaces, two different geopolitical world based on basically it could be politics or it could be how this technology is evolving both like so when I see all most of the models coming from the west, they are like your chat gpt or opus or gemini, all this like basically based on transformer is the underneath technology, which is basically the architecture which all these models are powered basically. Transformer is again a technique in which you build or stitch train train the models, and then how you optimize them and stuff like that. And the models which are coming mostly from China are like in terms of they are called MOEs or the mixture of experts, is what some of them like, or it is just combination of MOEs, or like it could be a combination of some of the newer models which are coming from China also
the
comes in.
MOE is a mixture of experts.
Yeah, that's right.
So just so people don't know, what is that?
So again, this is more broader. Just to give a quick intro onto this, it would be something like where a transformer is like something like where you load all the parameters and all the
Right.
context into memory, and then like where for every token, this needs to sit on the memory and then process it. Wherein MOE is just where you have more subgroup of experts which you develop so that they have a routing mechanism within that which can basically understand how each expert like what data
Right.
can each can process. So the context window what you have with an MOE could be much smaller, but at the same time that small within that smaller context window MOE can perform better because the inference and the training is happening on for a particular export which is happening. It could be like you can just develop this kind of like a boutique of experts where you link them together, and they take much less compute to run at one, because it's like say for example you're like firing some queries on like something like a financial model or something. You don't need all the understanding of open source code ever deployed and shipped in the world and in the model sitting there and ready to serve you and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So in this case what happens is that you have that kind of segregation where you will have them like one model which is like, I mean, one expert which is like very good at programming, other one is good at finance, other one is good at law.
Right.
I'm just giving a high level example.
No, no, correct.
In reality it is even more complex how you
I mean,
deploy stitch them.
it's a neural network architecture, right?
Yeah, yeah, correct. But then, so that is a primary difference which you have in terms of architecture. And then you have other things like in terms of how do you represent this into open weights and closed weights, which is just like most of the Western models comes with the closed weight tag, wherein any person who are outside the vendor cannot look at the weight or optimize it or fine tune the weights and
Correct.
stuff like that. Wherein when you look at models like Deepseek or like you're looking at something like a Gwen or like looking at GLM5, these are open weight models wherein you anyone can can just download the model, look at the weights, optimize it, fine tune it, and pass that the back onto the open source where they'll be able to take that iterations and then merge it and stuff like that. So it is like your any other open source, like be it like your Docker engine or like you're doing your.
So these three models that you're talking today, are they all open weights?
Yes, DeepSeek, Gwen, and GLM all open weights. Yeah.
Okay. So what it enables you open weights, I mean, you can add on is essentially you can, as you said, you can download the model file, you can run it locally. But the bigger part is you can fine tune it.
Absolutely, yeah. And
And
no, it's just not that, right? Like, see, when you have a good understanding of the weights on the data set, it gives you a good idea in terms of how well the performance is going to be on one particular area which you are training them. Right? This is if you have a proprietary model, it is just completely black box. You have to do multiple trial and error on your data to get a good fine-tuned experience of it. But wherein if you have an open weight model, it is much easier for you to look at the weights and understand how they are like working internally, and then you will be able to your cost for uh, training and producing inference from that is just much
right.
depending on your expertise again, but then again still technically it is much cheaper than using a proprietary model.
And these three models, do they allow even to modify it? I mean, are they licensed to, let's say, I can take it and completely modify it and release it as a something else? Or?
Yeah, I mean, so Gwen, I think if
Because some
I'm
models don't allow, right? I understand the Meta's model doesn't allow that.
that's right. So
They have some licensing restrictions on modifying it. I mean, though the weights are open, I'm talking about Llama 3, but it has some restricted license. I don't know what it exactly means, but.
So when it comes to Llama, I think even the architecture is like different. They follow mostly transformer again. They are not on MOEs and stuff like that. Is what my understanding is. And second thing is, like you said, you cannot like even though the model is open source, then you cannot just download their weights and look at them and stuff like that, or optimize and fine tune them and stuff
Right.
like that.
Okay, coming to their use cases, so there is also all these are available in different parameters, right? So, like say, which one are the most popular ones? Like, you have the small model which is like less than 3 billion. Then you have the medium one which is around 7 to 13 or so, I guess. Then the large model which is 30 to 70. I think most of these three LLMs offer all these three combinations, if I'm not wrong.
See, this like what is better or what is like most optimized is like very subjective when it comes, because one parameter doesn't decide that. Large context window also, in my view, if I have to evaluate a model, for me, having some like 10 billion alone, 10 billion parameter alone is not a best performing model out there for me, because it is a lot more complex to evaluate a model than just looking at the parameter or a large context window
No,
or
but
total size.
generally in the industry, you can correct me, but I understand is people prefer larger models when you want more reasoning, right? And these small models and medium models are preferred where I want to focus especially on a finite set of tasks, on language tasks or instructions to complete whatever. Am I right?
it, I mean, it is again like it depends. Like if you're like a domain where you have no expertise on LLMs, then you want to have the whole monolith sitting in your enterprise, and you want to like utilize it like as an out of the box solution. Yes, then you can look at some of the things. What is my largest context it can run? What is the biggest parameters it can have and stuff like that. But if you are like have a little bit of in-house LLM expertise and you want to have your own fine tuning and stuff like that, then you would go for something like more smaller model where you will be able to have a smaller context window as well as how well you are how well it is like closer to your domain where which you can
Right.
look at it and stuff like that. So it just completely depends on how what is the kind of expertise you have, and then where you want to go from here to there and stuff like that. So in my view, if you are to if you are a layman asking today, then I would say you basically look at the context window, because it gives you how much text you can throw at them, and then how
Mm.
many parameters it has got, or like whether you want to build the expertise in terms of like learn about fine tuning and stuff like that. So yeah.
Right. I think some of this innovation is coming around these open source LLMs. What have you seen as the biggest one apart from the MOE we talked about? And why these three LLMs are gaining popularity, and is it because of cost, or is it because of privacy, or what is the primary reason for that?
Uh, I mean, like I
Or is it
personally
generally the developer ecosystem is interested in to play around,
see
which I believe
one
is not the only case. So,
one stark difference what I've seen between the Western models and Chinese is that the Western models, Western LLM vendors, not just release the model, they also build a lot of tools around those models.
hmm.
But wherein the Chinese vendors, they are not really building so many tools around the models, wherein they are just really putting their head down and focusing in terms of how do I efficiently uh, build the model, train the model, and break them into pieces, and then making sure I completely open source. Wherein I'm not worried about like the slew of tools what like Anthropic is building or Gemini is building. They're not doing that. Like if you look at Cloud Code and Gwen Code, like you will see huge amount of difference in terms of how uh, both these tools work. Actually.
Hmm.
Gwen code is like as capable as Cloud code, but provided if you are willing to put your head down and then learn a little bit around how to work with it, then yeah, you can do whatever you can do in Cloud. Pretty much you can do it in Gwen.
No, why I ask is it apart from the geopolitics if we leave around,
Uh,
when Deepseek launched, there was a lot of interest, amazing a lot of interest on it, right?
yeah.
And it is because they were able to put out a model at sub fraction of the cost what a model coming out of US. And also companies like Perplexity, for example, immediately supported DeepSeek in their offering. But now it is gone. If you look at Perplexity, they have removed DeepSeek for whatever reason it is. So I am just curious why they removed it. Is it because they don't want to support the Chinese model anymore, or is it for some other reason?
I have absolutely no idea on Perplexity or what they're doing it. I'm not following the news. There is a lot of bias in West wherein they don't want to deploy Chinese models, or if you want
Correct.
to run businesses in from US, you would probably want to stay away from Chinese models for political reasons or funding reasons or whatever it could be actually. But
Hmm.
then I'm not following Perplexity. For me, the important thing why DeepSeek become so popular, and then even some of the vendors like Google is releasing their Gemini 1.5 in a MOE architecture, like so it gave me that kind of an impact wherein like because the architectural it is very efficient, where you use the cost of GPU and CPU and VRAM and everything, like you will depending on what you do, it can just save you a lot of cost. Like so for me that was the reason what I feel actually.
Okay.
And that's personally, that is how I feel. Like I have not seen so a lot of even within the enterprise there are a lot of hesitation for even just to try out Chinese models
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I've seen that. Yeah.
So, but then Perplexity, I have absolutely no idea why. I mean, I'm more and more these days. I'm just not even following that closely on the Western models which are coming from. I'm most primarily using a lot of
Hmm.
models which are like Gwen and other stuff. So I'm just for
And
me.
and do you believe that is one of the primary reasons why many of the Chinese models are adopting the open source model because they just want to establish that trust?
One is trust. Other thing is that you are enabling multiple vendors who are not into primary LLM business come into this ecosystem, right? So if you are in a robotics company today in China and you want to have some local intelligence built in, and then you have no
Right.
LLM expertise, you don't want to go buy an OpenAI monolithic model and deploy them in your. You can just go take a Deepseek, or you can take a Gwen. You can start tinkering around and then see how you want to optimize and run locally on your three-dimensional data for the automation you're doing, and then you can go back and then pass that learning back to the open source community, who can just either release
Right.
it as a new model, or so this is like your technically how your open source ecosystem of frameworks which like evolved into, like one, you release one framework which gets like optimized, built better by some other vendor, and then he releases it as in a new framework, or as in a new product, and or a new open source project and stuff like that. So it just kind of helps the ecosystem to grow much faster, where you don't have a dependency on one vendor to do all the work for everything, right? Like,
Okay, we talked about innovation. Just want to touch base on the multi-model capability of these models, right? Especially handling audio, video, and any UI-based tasks. Which of these three have you seen excelling at it?
I've used Gwen and Deepseek a lot. So for me, I've used Gemini also, but I'm not used to UX work that much. So I have absolutely no idea in terms of how
Mhm.
well they perform on UX side. But like in terms of when you want to generate any Go code, or you want to build like an ops code, or like you want to deploy, that Gwen like excels so well on these areas, like
Yeah, I've used
Ansible.
Gwen for coding tasks. It is exceptionally good. I have
Yeah.
not tried other multi-model things.
And even Kemi does a very good job of programming.
But Kimi, is it open source?
Yeah, it uses. I think it slightly uses a variant of GLM, but not exactly a GLM
Okay.
architecture. But then it's a variant of that, is what I feel.
But they are into a completely trying in a different space, right? That's essentially your what you call visual encoding something, where you can it turns text and visuals into production ready code. That's what they're
That is one
coding.
one of the use cases which many of them are trying it out. But then the model is very good. Like you want to use it as like a regular. You want to use an open router, and then you want to just integrate that with the Kemi or Gwen. You can pretty much do that actually. But then you want to use it like your regular programming tasks. You can just offload them.
Yeah. And coming to the benchmarking part, especially, I mean, we could look at two ways, right? One is obviously the performance, which is of late becoming a big deal because people don't have patience to wait even for a split second for code to be generated for whatever reason. But that could be one. The second is pricing, which is a big thing with this, right?
Yeah.
And I think DeepSeek offers a hosted model. I'm not sure about Quinn and others. I believe they do. I have not tried. Quinn I have actually hosted in my own GP infrastructure, so I'm not in touch base on what they're doing on the commercial. How you see from a performance benchmarking, right? These three models
I mean, like, so I don't have a professional or pro subscription of OpenAI or Cloud Code or Gemini
to
with me.
compare. Mm.
So to compare, personally, I don't have that.
No, no. I mean, even within the open source context, right? Let's not talk about open source versus commercial.
Uh,
I'm saying within these are the many other open source models which are there in Hugging Face, right? Which is the of these three, which is probably the best performing in terms of both performance and price.
I think like each model has their own strength and weaknesses. But then what I have seen is that in general, I'm talking about in general, not on particular use cases. In general, I have seen 16 to 17x cheaper when it comes to models. You want to compare Gwen and Gemini, or Gwen and
Ah,
OpenAI, or something like that, or DeepSeek versus
mhm.
anyway. It could range between, it completely depends on what you're doing. But then in general, if you want to like take an average, I would say anywhere between 16 to 17x cheaper than what you spend on either Anthropic or Google or your OpenAI.
But Quen is also natively offered in Alibaba Cloud, right? Who's one of the leading
Yes, yeah,
cloud
yeah,
platforms as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
And you have not tried that.
I've not used Alibaba Cloud as it is. I use mostly Gwen Code or like use any other IDE which just basically routes them with to the model.
So, in terms of what US has been doing on open source model, have you seen that that sort of pace in that innovation has gone down? Maybe only Meta was trying with Llama. Then now I don't hear much about Llama. I mean, do you think they're not going to invest more on the open source side? What's your take?
I have absolutely no idea what is happening with Meta guys, but I've not seen either the. I mean, I'm not following the roadmap or any of that. But what I have seen, at least on the open source side, Misrael is something which is interesting. The work which is happening in France.
Correct.
They're doing something very interesting on the open source and open weight models, but then again, they don't have the mind space. Of what is happening in US. So they are like also. I don't know whether you have seen the keynote what Mistral guy gave in AI Summit in India.
Yeah,
There are about three guys were sitting there. How pathetic it
yeah,
can be. I have
right.
absolutely. And then this whole dissent on open source among the young devs is something which I don't. I mean, I completely fail to comprehend why they hate open source so much.
No, I think
Their
the
careers,
reason,
their
Subramani,
careers, their
no,
careers
I
are
don't think
built.
so. Yeah, no, I mean, maybe, but I think this is the same community who adopted every other open source libraries out there, right? If you look at
No, but like
right?
but when you talk to founders or like the kind of response you see for what Mistral presentation guy was giving a presentation in Delhi, it's such an important summit, and you have three people sitting there actually, which is like
No, I
which
did see that it was pretty bad, and especially
It's
when
just
French
not
president
this
also was
alone.
there.
No, it is not this alone. You can look at last 4 5 years, all the open source events in India, the numbers are like extremely skewed, and I have
Hmm.
absolutely seen there is people have like kind of this kind of like hate towards it. Like I mean, I have absolutely no idea from where this kind of came in,
Correct.
and I don't know. Maybe
No, I
probably.
understand, but my theory, I may be wrong, is probably because they don't have the patience anymore to take these LLM models, run on a GPU cluster or whatever. And considering we don't have access to GPU resources in a cheaper way, I think they are probably all the reasons. I think, unfortunately, I see in India we are going behind the whatever the new term they call the applied AI thing, where
with
you just
with
want to build apps around it,
with
right?
the monolithic models, what are you going to learn as a dev actually?
You don't learn anything. That
Exactly.
is unfortunate thing
So
I'm saying. So they
that's
are behind the API tokens. Okay, hey, I get the code. I'm going to build this agent doing that, build this agent doing this. They are behind it, is what I think.
that is if you are a professional developer, that is not the route you want to take, right?
Correct.
You want to
No, you
understand.
still need them. They are the app developers, like the mobile apps. They're going to build AI apps. That's fine. But I don't think. I think that's because of the IT service companies here also pushing that agenda strongly, right? That's why they term this applied AI and diffusion, all those things, the fancy words they use, essentially to create. Okay, just keep building something, right? And they sign up these big deals with this. I mean, the Gemini, Google, and others, some deal on tokens and just throwing out apps left, right.
Okay,
It's
so
it's it's unfortunate. I
yeah,
completely understand, especially at this stage where you should be adopting open source more and understand it is much more deeper, right?
yeah. So
And see
going
what you can do it. I mean, they are open source. Whatever it came from China and everything, I mean, it is open, right? You can always look at and validate whatever they do. Why can't you take it and build it, customize it for our own needs,
yeah. So going
rather
back.
than saying we have this unique ability, what they call sovereignty. I mean, that's a new term, right? So every other country needs to have their own model for what? I really don't understand that.
That
Anyway,
makes sense in some cases, yeah. But then if you want to go back to the question you asked in terms of what other open weight models coming from the West, like which is like Mistral is one thing which I've seen, and ChatGPT released their uh, I think it is GPT OSS or something like that, if I'm not
I
wrong.
don't know. I'm not following.
I think it is GPT OSS or something, but I don't know the details in terms of what that model's capability and stuff like that. And there is also another one. I think is GPT OSS, which is it says 120B model is what it says. It's completely open weight, and GPT 2, wherein their primary one is like on GPT 5 or something like that. So this is O4 mini, I guess. So other one I've seen, one interesting stuff is Mistral. The other interesting Llama 4.1. I don't know what exactly what new updates are happening around that, because I'm not really interested in playing around with that also, because it's just, I mean, at least my needs aren't when I don't have access to a good machine which can just run Llama locally and stuff like that. So I'm not really playing around with
I
that
think
much.
that is a big hindrance. That's what I'm trying to say, right? Because that's probably why the community is also not able to adopt it. They have an easy route. Okay, I just put some credit card, get token, then move.
We have all kinds of devs. I mean, like our country has like the devs who
Correct.
are like poor, rich, medium rich, extremely rich. I mean, even if you have a rich devs who are like in places like in Delhi and Bangalore, if you, there are people who can afford to run a cluster here, right? Like absolutely, there are people there. Even those guys go and sit in a Mistral. I would be more than happy to see them. Anyway,
Okay.
so
So I just want.
other one I have seen is the Star
Yeah.
Coder, which is like extremely
Yeah. Mm.
popular among a lot of legacy developers, which are like COBOL, Fortran, and other things. Are like, I heard it is like exceptionally good for those legacy programs, but I don't
It's
have a
been
first
there for
hand.
quite a while now, actually.
I don't have a first-hand experience of it, but then I think whatever I hear, I hear good reviews about that from many people.
Okay.
So these are open
Uh,
source on the Western Hemisphere.
okay. Lastly, I just want to touch base on this, what's called the small LLMs, right? I know there are many. I think even Quen themselves have one, and Microsoft has had done that. It's called Phi, I think, PHI, small models.
They have many actually. I if I'm not wrong, Microsoft has like about 3 or 4 of them. I don't know exactly.
So many of these small models, and I think even in the AI summit they talked about big about the small model. That is probably we are doing so many things around it. Is those are especially for very small language tasks, which goes into your edge devices or which goes into your phone. Those are the primary use cases, or what do you think the small LM scenario is?
See, there is like slightly a misconception is what I feel. They are not technically small LLMs, because they are like as good as doing many tasks, about 60-70% of
I
what
mean, what they
an
mean is small
LLM.
LM is you don't need a big, powerful GPU to run on it. It can run on your laptop or mobile with a maybe a very small GPU, or even it could run on a CPU. That is essentially what they're telling, right?
No, I think it's
No
just
cloud dependency.
mostly to do with the context engine, the context window is what mostly they refer, along with the kind of making it like very specific to data set where which can
I
like
mean,
give off
specific
in a
to a domain, right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I heard in the summit where they talked about there are small LM use cases for agriculture, for example, right? Where it can answer only agriculture related questions, and it doesn't have a big general reasoning thing and all that. So
Right.
I believe that is probably the use case there.
I don't know much about this where and how it fits in and stuff like that. So maybe we have to uh, research a bit in terms of like see who's using it, how are they using it, and stuff
Correct.
like that. Yeah, but I offhand I don't know exactly the even I've not come across a need for deploying something in house, a small LLM on what kind of use cases which I mean on day to day what I do kind of solve that is what I'm one thing I have seen is that a lot of people use like in terms of um, have some local processing capability to manage context, wherein which has an API to a cloud LLM, where the local LLM manages all the context, where the cloud LLM basically used like kind of tasks for one specific task, where the local LLM can then basically pass on the context and then get job done. That is one use case I've at least seen and come across in my thing. Other than that, I don't know exactly how people are using it and stuff like that.
Okay. I think that's pretty much what I want to discuss. I think I want to touch base on the language part, on speech to text, text to speech. Maybe we'll do a separate episode on it because that's in itself is quite a bit of thing happening there. And I think that's all I wanted to talk about. You have anything as a closing comments on this episode?
I don't have much, but like though I don't have any other comments. That's about it. Let's not get into the politics of it.
Yeah, I mean, probably we should do a separate episode on politics because I
No,
feel
we'll stay away
I
from
don't know.
that.
I'm interested in it. You are not, but I'll try to convince you.
I don't want to go there at all. So,
Yeah, there are people who are interested to listen to that, right? So, yeah, let's see.
there are 100 other places there too. They can go listen.
So, I mean, all these three models are available on Hugging Face, right? And you can go and try that.
Yeah, I mean, they are an MIT license, so I mean, you can just go. You're not necessarily Hugging Face. You can go anywhere and then utilize.
Yeah, right.
All right.
Okay, with that, we'll catch up again next week.
All right. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.